Every single day, literally millions of us head off to work. But have you ever stopped to think about what guarantees you'll come home safe? It's a huge question, right? Well, today, we're going to break down the global blueprint designed to do just that, ISO 45001. This is the big one, the international standard for workplace health and safety. Okay, before we dive into all the technical stuff, let's just pause for a second and think about this. What does a truly safe workplace actually look like? I mean, is it just about not getting hurt? Or is it something more? The answer, as you'll see, is exactly why a global standard like this was created in the first place. Look, the reality is every single workplace has risks. And we're not just talking about, heavy machinery on a factory floor. It could be something as simple as bad ergonomics at your office desk. Or, something as serious as falling objects on a construction site. The challenge isn't to pretend these dangers don't exist. It's about managing them effectively. So how does some huge company make sure its people are safe, whether they're in a shiny headquarters or a factory halfway across the world? And that question leads us right here to the global solution. Let's really dig into what ISO 45001 is all about and why it's become the go-to blueprint for what's called occupational health and safety, or OHS for short. So what is this thing really? Well, think of ISO 45001 as a universal playbook. It comes from the International Organization for Standardization, and pretty much any organization, big or small, can use it to up its safety game. Now, the super important thing to get here is that it's not some rigid list of rules. It's a flexible system. It's designed to help companies build a real culture of safety from the ground up, and honestly, to prove they're committed to their people's well-being. Okay, so that's the what. Now for the how. How does it actually work? Well, the whole thing is built around 5 core requirements. Let's pop the hood and take a look at the engine that makes the system run. So right away you can see this is not just some simple checklist you tick off and you're done. No way. It's a dynamic, continuous cycle. See how risk assessment flows into operational controls, and then those are measured in the performance evaluation step? The key is that whatever you learn from that evaluation gets fed right back into the system. It creates this constant loop of continuous improvement, with leadership right there in the middle driving the whole thing. It's this never-ending cycle that gives the system its power. All right, so these are the 5 big pillars of the standard. It all kicks off with leadership, then you identify your risks, you control them, you measure how you're doing, and finally, you keep making things better. Simple enough, right? Let's break each one down a little more. Everything, and I mean everything, starts right here, with leadership and worker participation. The whole idea is that you can't just shove safety off onto some manager's desk and call it a day. ISO 45001 says, nope. Top leadership has to be visibly involved, and every single employee needs to have a real voice in spotting and reporting risks. It has to be part of the company's DNA, flowing from the very top all the way down, and just as importantly, from the bottom all the way up. All right, next up is hazard identification and risk assessment. And this is where the real detective work begins. We're talking about teams systematically going through every single task, every tool, every corner of the workplace, looking for anything that could possibly cause harm. The whole point is to be proactive, right? To find the problem and fix it before it becomes an incident. So once you've found the risks, you obviously have to do something about them. And that brings us to operational controls. This is where safety gets real and practical. We're talking about the stuff you can see and touch. Things like making sure everyone's wearing the right personal protective equipment, PPE, or having clear, easy-to-understand safety signs, and of course, having solid emergency plans that absolutely everyone knows by heart. You've probably heard the saying, you can't manage what you don't measure. Well, that's exactly what Step 4, performance evaluation, is all about. This part of the standard insists that organizations are constantly keeping an eye on their safety performance. They're tracking important numbers like incident rates, how often near misses happen, which are super important, and what the audits are telling them. It's all about making sure they're actually hitting their safety goals. And all that data, all those measurements, they all feed directly into this final crucial pillar, continuous improvement. Because let's face it, workplaces are always changing. New people, new equipment, new processes. So safety can't just be a one-and-done thing. The system is designed to be alive, to evolve by learning from audits, from incident investigations, and maybe most importantly, from what employees are saying. The goal is to have a safety program that actually gets smarter and better over time. Okay, but wait a minute. How does a company, and maybe more importantly, how does the rest of the world know that this system is actually working? How do they know it's not just a bunch of paperwork? Well, that's where a super critical step comes in. Let's talk about audits. So, when we say audit here, just think of it like a formal checkup for the company's safety system. It's a methodical process to verify that, yes, they are actually doing what the ISO 45001 framework says they should be doing. Audits are absolutely essential for making sure the practices are followed and for sniffing out any weak spots or gaps in the program. Now, audits aren't all the same. There are two main flavors. First, you've got internal audits. These are done by the company's own people. Think of them as regular self-checks, to handle the day-to-day stuff and fix problems fast. But then you have the external audits. These are the big ones. They're done by totally independent third-party groups. They give that unbiased outside perspective, and they're what you need to actually get and keep your official ISO 45001 certification. And this really helps visualize the difference. On one side, you've got that internal process. It's the team on the ground checking daily operations, making sure everything is running smoothly. But on the other side, you've got the external audit. This is that formal, high-stakes evaluation from an outside expert. This is what leads to the official stamp of approval, the certification that gives a company real credibility. You absolutely need both to make the system work. So, after all that, the whole framework, the constant checks, the endless improvements, what's the big payoff? What's the point of it all? Well, it's about so much more than just ticking a compliance box. It's about fundamentally changing a company's entire culture around safety. So what are the benefits? I mean, the obvious one is a safer workplace, right? Fewer accidents, fewer incidents. But it really goes so much deeper than that. For the people working there, it builds a massive amount of trust. It sends the message that their well-being is actually genuinely valued. And for the company itself, it's a huge public statement to the world that they are serious about protecting their most important asset, their people. And this quote just nails it. Compliance with ISO 45001 is not about getting a fancy certificate to hang on the wall. It's a living commitment to continual improvement and a proactive safety culture. And that word proactive, that's the key. Getting to a place where safety isn't just a reaction to something bad, but it's built into everything you do, that's the real win. So, let's leave you with a question to chew on. It doesn't matter if you're the CEO or if you just started a new job last week. What's one single step, maybe a small one, that your workplace could take tomorrow to start building a more proactive safety culture? Because at the end of the day, creating a safer place to work, that starts with every single one of us. Thanks so much for tuning in.